Welcome to Students Incorporated. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Join me weekly as my team and I produce content that's informative, positive, fun, and uplifting. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. Hello and welcome back to the show. We've got another exciting episode for you. I'm joined by co-hosts Mia and Frank. In our first segment, we'll be talking with several student athletes about their high school sports career and the difficulties of balancing both academics and sports. Then in segment 2, we'll continue part 3 of our adventure story titled Legends of the Yucatán, so stick around. But before we get started, let's hear our quote of the day and get some headline news.
Our quote of the day comes from Haywood Brown, an American sports writer, journalist, and social commentator. He's quoted to have said, "Sports do not build character. They reveal it." The quote means that sports won't magically give you character. Whatever you're born with just shows up when you play. In the heat of competition, your real traits, whether it's teamwork, integrity, or even selfishness and competitiveness, taken too far, become clear. So rather than sports making you a better person, they're more like a mirror that reflects who you truly are on the field and gives you a reality check on who you are. And that's our quote of the day. Now on to some headline news with Mia.
For the news, let's look at some recent headlines in sports. First off, the 2025 Major League Baseball season kicked off with the Tokyo Series, which featured the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs at the Tokyo Dome. This event marked the 25th anniversary of MLB's regular season games in Japan. This is a little special because our very own Toto went to Japan and watched the preseason game. Next up, the 2025 NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament, known as March Madness, is officially underway, kicking off with the first 4 matchups in Dayton, Ohio. The action ramps up with the first round, featuring powerhouse programs like Duke, Florida, and Houston aiming for deep tournament runs. Meanwhile, red-hot teams like Texas Tech and St. John's are making waves as potential bracket busters. With the Final Four set for April 5th in San Antonio, the stage is set for another thrilling March filled with upsets, Cinderella stories, and buzzer beaters. Finally, get ready for some massive football clashes. From June 15th to July 13th this year, the FIFA Club World Cup will be held in 32 stadiums across the U.S. The competition will be in a tournament format with group stages and knockout rounds, and concluding with a championship in the MetLife Stadium in New York. So, if you want to see famous players like Messi and Mbappe compete, you should definitely go. And that ends our headline news for this episode.
Thank you for the quote and the headline news. We welcome several student athletes to the studio for this segment, and Mia will start us off.
Hello, everyone. So, could you all introduce yourself and tell us what sport you play? Micah, you can go first.
Hello, I'm Micah. I'm a senior and I play football.
I'm Asa. I'm also a senior and I also play football.
I'm Mimi. I'm a senior too and I play volleyball.
I'm Ingrid and I'm also a senior and I play basketball and football.
Very good sports from everyone. So how long have you guys been involved in this sport and what initially got you guys started?
So I've been playing basketball since I was probably in 5th grade, and I started playing basketball because my parents made me do taekwondo, but I didn't want to do it anymore. So they said if I quit, I had to pick up another sport. So that was basketball, and I stuck with it ever since.
I played volleyball since 8th grade, and I think my friends just invited me to a tryouts. And this is how I got started with the sport.
I started playing football when I was 5. My parents signed me up for like a little league thing in America, and I really enjoyed it, and so I played all through elementary and got really into it.
I also started when I was 5, and my friend brought me to this club. And ever since then, I've been playing for that same club.
All right, thank you. So, how do you guys think that your sport has shaped your high school experience so far?
I think it's made it much more enjoyable, and I think I've gotten to know a lot more people through the team.
Yeah, kind of like Micah said, it's been probably my favorite part or one of my favorite parts of high school here. And a lot of my teammates are my really good friends because of that.
Same as Asa and Micah, I think sports has gotten me the opportunity to meet new people. So, yeah.
Sports made me like take my mind off of academics, which really helped. And I also met a lot of people who I normally wouldn't talk to at school, and also hang out with friends outside of school is also really nice.
Definitely, sports can shape your experience inside and outside of high school. So how does participating in your sport affect your time management and schoolwork?
Actually, I don't think it really affects my time management much but I think that playing sports after school does make me more motivated during guided studies, since I will not just sit around and do nothing. I'll actually try to finish my work. But if I don't go to practice and I go home, I won't be doing work anyways. I'll just be probably taking a nap. So, yeah.
I mean, I kind of did struggle with time management the first few years joining varsity, but then later on I kind of adapt to it.
It really helped me like develop and understand my priorities more, because when I spent so much time practicing after school, I had to really focus and be diligent to get my schoolwork done.
Yeah, it's, for me, the same as Asa, especially like when we had away games. I would have to do all of my work like a lot faster than I would normally have to do, and it taught me to be more diligent.
All right, thank you. I mean, like, kudos to you guys. I don't think I could ever do like what you guys do, especially with a lot of like away games and ACSC as well. So good job, guys. All right, so after high school, do you see yourself continuing the sport, or what's your future goal in the sport, if you have any?
My future goal is just to become the best player I can and get to like the highest level I can. And I hope that I don't like get injuries that will stunt that growth.
I would say my goal is to play for as long as I can and at the highest level I can. And next year I'll be playing in college, which is something I'm very excited about. And then I'll just see where that takes me.
I'll probably play like club volleyball in my university. So yeah, I'll just have fun with my sport in the future.
I would say that my basketball career will probably end in high school, because I'm just too small of a fish and too big of a pond in college to be able to amount to much in basketball. So I'm going to start picking up golf and start being a golfer instead.
Definitely, but like, you know, like some people, like, you shouldn't just give up on your dreams, even if it's just small or big, you know, just keep going. But yeah, so what advice would you give to younger athletes who are just starting their high school sports careers?
The most important advice I would give is, as a younger athlete, you might not get as much playing time as the other people, and I think that should not discourage you from like trying to work harder. Instead, like use like not having enough playing time to motivate yourself to improve, so you can eventually get more playing time.
Yeah, I agree with Ingrid, but most importantly, just try to have fun with your friends and then use that opportunity to bond with other people too.
Yeah, I would say do your best, work really hard to win, but don't forget your reason for playing the sport, which is because you enjoy it. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to perform and win all the time.
I think you should just try your hardest, because you might be really talented at it, and you should take it as far as you can.
All right. Thank you very much for being here in the studio today. We appreciate the sacrifice and all the time that goes into being a student athlete. It's a lot of work. And on top of that, you have to do the same amount of homework that all of your friends and other students have to do. So thank you for that. All right. We'll be right back after this short PSA announcement when we bring you part 3 of The Legends of the Yucatán. We'll be right back.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's talk about Tri-Sports. This unique tournament blends basketball, volleyball, and soccer over 3 action-packed days. It's also the final competition for senior student athletes, making a meaningful and memorable way to close out their high school sports journey. Players compete in soccer, then volleyball, and finally basketball, creating an unforgettable experience filled with teamwork, competition, and camaraderie. For many seniors, Tri-Sports holds a special place in their hearts, making it a highly recommended event to cap off their high school athletic careers. Then we have the Varsity Badminton Tournament, hosted as an ISB invitational event. This prestigious international competition will welcome schools from across Asia for 2 days of high-level badminton play. The tournament will be held this Friday and Saturday at ISB. Don't miss the chance to cheer on our teams for both tournaments this weekend. Go team!
3, 2, 1.
And we are back with our second segment, and we'll continue with part 3 of our story, Legends of the Yucatán. Part 3 is titled The Incident. If you missed parts 1 and 2, you can get caught up by listening to episodes 87 through 88. Legends of the Yucatán is a sequel to our Season 2 story, The Secrets of El Dorado. We released last year during episodes 55 through 64 in audio narration. It's also available in book form as a downloadable PDF from our website or in paperback version on Amazon.com. Just visit studentsincorporated.com to find out more. Now, moving on, Camden will give us a quick recap before we jump into part 3.
Recapping Part 2, the interview. The students and chaperones from El Dorado College arrived safely at UNOM. Ava interviews Miranda and David about the artifact while Professor Hawthorne guest lectures. There's a book signing event in the student union, and the group meets museum curator Anthony Garcia. And without further ado, let's jump back into our story where we join our eclectic group of characters and their continuing adventure.
Prof. Amanda Chase has been back at the college in Coloma, California, while Professor Hawthorne, Ava, Lily, and the students have been enjoying their first couple days on the ground at UNOM in Mexico City. As she finishes one of her classes and while walking out of the lecture hall, her phone gets a notification with a not-so-familiar ding. It catches her attention because it's a very different sound from the usual notification ding she receives from her other messaging apps. She thinks to herself and then looks more closely at the screen on her phone as she is walking down the hall toward her office. The message reads, "The U.S. Embassy has issued a Level 3 travel warning for parts of Mexico." Amanda clicks on the notification and a longer message then appears and reads, Level 3, reconsider travel. Avoid travel due to serious risks to safety and security. The Department of State provides additional advice for travelers in these areas in the travel advisory. Conditions in any country may change at any time. Oh my, Amanda thinks to herself as she gets situated at her desk in her office. She sends a quick text message to Professor Hawthorne asking if he has seen the same message or has heard of anything. It reads, "Hello, hope things are going well for you, all down there. It's been really quiet here for the last few days. Anyway, quick question, did you happen to receive a notification from the U.S. Embassy about a travel alert? Just wondering, asking as a concerned friend and colleague." Amanda impatiently stares down at her phone screen, waiting for a reply from the professor, hoping he sees it immediately. All of a sudden, it hadn't been but a few seconds. Amanda sees the small dots in the messaging app bounce which indicates that the professor is in the middle of replying. So she waits.
Professor Hawthorne stopped mid-stride as he was walking back to his temporary dorm room on the UNOM campus after a long day of being with students, signing books and talking a lot. His phone had dinged with a familiar message which indicated he had received a text message. He noticed it was from Amanda Chase, who was back at El Dorado College in Coloma. He was thankful to have her join as a faculty member this past year. She had helped make this trip possible for him and his students, helping with logistics, planning, and taking some of his classes while he was away. So he felt he owed it to her to keep all communication lines open while he was away from the school, especially if she had any questions about one of his classes she was covering. He looked down at his phone and read her message. He then clicked a few other messaging apps open and saw nothing. There was no notifications or messages from the U.S. Embassy about a travel alert. He thought to himself as he was messaging Amanda back, maybe a false alarm or just formality the U.S. sends out pre-summer travel season. He proceeds to text her back, letting her know that they are all fine and have not heard any news like that from anybody they've met. He texts back and it reads, "Thanks for the message. We're doing good. Did not get any notifications on this end. Maybe a false alarm or just a pre-summer travel precaution. BTW. Thanks for holding down the fort while I'm gone. I really appreciate it." And with that, he opens the door to his temporary dorm room and plops down on the uncomfortable small bed and zones out.
Amanda reads Professor Hawthorne's message and feels a sense of relief and texts back. Okay, sounds good. Take care, and if I get any more messages, I'll text you back. And with that, a thought comes to mind. She then remembers that when she was helping set up all the travel plans for the team several months prior, she actually entered her phone number as one of the main contacts for the team and forgot to add Professor Hawthorne's number. She thinks to herself, well, if I get any more notifications, I'll just pass them along as well. And I'm hoping Hawthorne's assessment is correct, that this U.S. Embassy travel alert notification is just a formality for tourists ahead of the heavy summer travel season that's just around the corner.
Anthony Garcia is filled with anxious pride. He can't believe that he has the honor of helping MC the museum fundraising gala. In a little more than 8 hours, he'll be mingling with prominent politicians, famous Mexican actors, and a lot of very wealthy in this very own museum. Well, let's just say the city's museum, but he likes to call it his museum since the shows and items he has been able to curate over the years have helped propel this unknown old building into an international destination, not to mention the world-renowned staff he's been able to recruit and keep. He thinks to himself, tonight is the accumulation of many, many years of hard work, and I'm going to enjoy myself. After all, I deserve it. Mexico City, this district, and the community owes me a great deal of gratitude for the past many years. And deep down, Anthony also knows that the artifacts that will be unveiled at the gala and be displayed in the museum also come with some territorial and cultural baggage he hopes does not ruin the excitement everyone will be feeling. He's got plenty to do in the next 8 hours before the event begins, so he gets busy. He's focused and determined to make this one of the best evenings of his career.
It's mid-morning, and the El Dorado College students who came on the trip have the day off. There are no scheduled events all day until the evening gala at the museum. Yesterday had been a long and fun day, but they were all glad to get to sleep in a bit, relax, and get some free time. Max, Danny, and Joe were sharing a 4-person dorm room and were only a few doors down from the room Professor Hawthorne was staying in. Each night, Professor Hawthorne had come down to the room, checked in on them, chatted, and hung out before turning in for the night. He even played a few hands of 5-card draw. The guys mentioned more than once that getting to hang out with the professor outside the classroom was actually quite fun and that it was quite entertaining to see another side to him. Max gets up and starts rummaging through his suitcase. Hey, Danny, Joe, so are your clothes as wrinkled as mine? Max asks his 2 roommates as he sifts through his suitcase that's been laying on the floor of the UNAM dorm room he and his El Dorado classmates have been staying in for the last few days. Max continues, my mom would be so disappointed in me right now. I mean, I totally forgot to set out the outfit I packed for the gala event, and now it's full of wrinkles. It looks so unprofessional and juvenile.
Danny jumps in. Well, you can do what I've had to do before. Hang your wrinkled clothes in the bathroom and turn on the hot shower water and shut the door for a few minutes. The steam from the hot water should help get rid of the wrinkles.
Really? That works? Joe turns and looks at Danny and then over at Max as he and Danny watch Max unfold and hang up the one formal outfit he had brought up on the trip.
This is my formal outfit for tonight, Max says as he holds it up to show the other 2 guys who are still lounging around on their beds. I'm going to try the bathroom steam trick and see if it works. Max continues, guys, how often do we get dressed up this fancy back home? Hardly ever, right? So we need to look classy and sharp tonight. Besides, we need to match the girls in styles. I'm sure they'll be dressed to the nines. We can't have them outclassed us.
Joe cracks a smile, looks directly at Max, and then says, sounds like there's a certain someone you're trying to impress tonight. It's okay to admit you have a thing for Olivia.
Danny jumps in again. Well, the question you need to be asking yourself and then finding out the answer to is, does Olivia have a thing for you too? Until you figure that out, I think you'll just be another dude in a nice suit this evening.
Meanwhile, and across the small campus street that separated several of the boys' dorm from some of the girls' dorm, the 4 college girls who are also part of the El Dorado college group were essentially doing the same exact thing boys were doing. That is, They were looking through their suitcases and prepping their formal clothes for that evening's gala event at the museum. It was still mid-morning and they were happy to have some downtime as well. The past few days have been quite busy, enjoyable but busy. Hey Olivia, did you end up packing that one outfit you were talking about last week after class? Vivian asks as she holds up her formal dress to make sure the wrinkles are not noticeable.
No, I didn't, Olivia responds. My parents gave me some trip money at the last minute, so I was able to actually buy a new outfit a few days before we left.
Oh, let's see it, Isabel remarks as she is in the middle of reorganizing her own suitcase and her clothes she had just been stuffing back in the suitcase after she had worn them.
Yeah, let's see it, Liv. Vivian chimes in.
Okay guys, here it is. Olivia says as she reluctantly holds up the new dress she had just purchased a few days prior to them leaving California to go on this trip. She continues, okay, what do you think? Be honest now.
Isabel jumps in and immediately says, oh wow, that's awesome and it's totally you.
Yeah, not bad. Vivian says as she looks over at Emily, who hadn't really said anything yet. What do you think of Emily?
Well, it's not my style and it probably won't fit me, but it'll look really pretty on you, Olivia, Emily says as she puts down her phone after scrolling through her social media accounts.
Well, thank you. And you could totally pull this look off if you had to, Olivia says as she proceeds to hang up the dress, making sure it stays nice and wrinkle-free before having to put it on later that day. Just then, there's a knock on the girl's door.
Lily knocks on the girl's door and it opens immediately. There stands Olivia with a big smile on her face. Lily then says, you all seem to be enjoying some downtime. How's it going?
Great. We were just hanging up our formal outfits for tonight's event. We can't go looking like we just pulled our outfits out of our messy suitcases, Olivia responds.
Oh, right. Thanks for the reminder. I need to do that too, Lily says as she steps halfway into the room to look at the other outfits hanging up.
Isabel then asks, what's Mrs. Turner doing?
Miss Turner? Oh, right. You can totally call her by her first name, Ava. She would probably laugh if she heard you being that formal, Lily responds. She's just hanging out in our room and trying to catch up on work. Well, I just wanted to come down and check on you and see how things are going. Remember, we need to be out front at 6 p.m. all ready to go. The van driver will then take us all over together.
Hawthorne had spent the better part of the morning scouring the internet looking for information about why the United States had put out the travel warning. Of course, the information was not specific, and there was nothing online that he could find that would justify any type of heightened anxiety on his part. He did feel a lot of responsibility for the students who had come, but also knew that this trip offered them a great experience that many of them would not be able to get anywhere else. Professor Hawthorne, noticing that it's a little past noon, leaves the room and makes his way down to the dorm room where the boys are staying. He knocks on the door. No answer. After a few more unanswered knocks, the professor decides to head over to one of the small student unions located on the other side of campus and grab a bite to eat for lunch. The professor enters the student union building and immediately sees Max, Danny, and Joe sitting at a table eating, and notices they had just gotten started. He walks over to them and then says, "Hey guys, glad you found some food. Do you mind if the teacher joins you?"
Of course not. We just got started. They're actually serving American-style hamburgers today, and well, you can tell that we're pretty excited about that. Max responds as he looks down at his 2 plates full of food.
"All right, sounds good," Hawthorne replies. "Let me get my tray of food and I'll be right back. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions about the gala tonight, we can talk about it over lunch." The professor then turns around and walks off to get his food, which is served cafeteria style.
As Hawthorne walks off and it's out of earshot, Joe makes a comment to the other 2 guys. I don't know about you, but it's kind of fun coming a trip with the professor. Getting to see him outside the classroom and realizing he's just a normal person. Well, besides the fact that he's somewhat famous.
Yeah, well, I don't really think about the whole gold rush scandal thing he was involved in a couple years back. Well, Miss Turner and Lily too, and they are here as well, Max responds.
Danny then says as they watch Hawthorne start walking back to their table with his tray of food, I wonder what kind of scandal we'll find ourselves in on this trip.
Professor Hawthorne sits down with his tray of food, looks up at the guys, and then says, "All right, guys, what questions do you have about tonight's event?"
Meanwhile, and on the same day, there was a scurry of activity in an old abandoned two-story building just a few blocks away from the museum. The museum at which the night's activities would be happening. The old abandoned building was known to local residents as the Old Broom Factory and had been sitting empty for the past few years. When the business had been operational, they produced all kinds of brooms, which were sold and distributed all over Mexico. However, many of the locals knew that the business was used for more than just making brooms. Rumor has it, the Old Broom Factory had also been a money laundering tool for one of the local gangs that had ties to the cartel.
Is everything in place? Maria asked her niece and nephew, who were sitting a few feet away from her on old half-broken wooden chairs.
Si, senora. Everyone is prepped and ready for this evening. Carlos responds as he looks at his older sister, Renata, sitting next to him.
It's an easy in and out. No problem. We've done much more difficult jobs than this one, Renata says.
Well, don't get too cocky. There's a lot more at stake with this job. Maria snaps back and then continues. There will be a lot of people there, so just follow the plan and see that it gets done and done right. Speed and coordination is the key to grabbing both of the items tonight. I'll be here waiting. Don't deviate from that plan. Get back here as quickly as you can. And remember to connect with our guy on the inside when you get in there.
Professor Hawthorne and the three young college guys walk out of their dorm building and toward the white van that's parked out front. He notices his friend Prof. Tommy is standing outside next to the van already talking with Ava. He then notices the college girls and Lily walking toward the van from the other side, having just exited the girls' dorm building. As everyone stands around the van, Hawthorne says, "Thanks for being on time, everyone, and you all look great. We clean up real well."
Alright everybody, let's load up and get going. We'll probably hit some traffic on the way there, Tommy says as he jumps in the front passenger seat. A few minutes later, the van is moving and on its way to the museum for a night that no one will forget.
About 30 minutes later, the van arrives at the museum's front entrance, which was a drop-off only. The American college students, along with Hawthorne and Ava, exit the van and take in the surroundings. The evening was starting to settle in, and the day's light was dimming. I guess you could say it was dusk. There was a mariachi band consisting of about 12 members playing close to the foot of the main stone staircase leading up to the main entrance of the museum. Photographers, along with reporters and news agencies, were scurrying around as guests and spectators started arriving.
Upon getting out of the van and after taking a head count to make sure everyone was accounted for, Professor Hawthorne looks over at Ava and says, "Looks like quite the media event. Did you know this evening's event would be so popular among the major news outlets?"
Ava responds, I knew it was going to be popular, but I didn't know it would be this popular. I mean, I see another Reuters reporter here, probably to make sure they get the whole story from different angles, I suppose.
Tommy puts his arm around Hawthorne's shoulders and says, "You all ready to go inside? It'll be much quieter and more calm once we go inside the museum. There's a reception area with snacks and beverage you can enjoy while waiting for the planned agenda to begin."
As the group makes their way through the crowded outdoor area in front of the museum and then up the main stone steps towards the large wooden entrance doors, Ava looks back down toward the road and spots both David Silva and Miranda Martinez getting mauled by reporters and cameras as they were trying to make their way toward the steps and entrance.
Prof. Tommy notices Ava's reaction and shouts over the noise back at Ava. Yup, they're like local celebrities now, and I think secretly the public would love to see them become a couple. 6 months ago, no one knew them and they didn't know each other. Now they're more famous than the cartel.
Ava cracked a half smile and nodded her head back at Prof. Tommy and thought to herself, being more famous than the cartel is not necessarily a good thing either.
After entering the main entrance of the museum and then walking through the large museum atrium, Professor Hawthorne and the group make their way to the main reception area, which was already packed with guests. Everyone was dressed to the T and standing around talking or leaning on one of the many tall cocktail tables with wine glasses in hand while talking about the things ruling class elites talk about at these sort of events. Hawthorne thought to himself, but said out loud, These two artifacts must have some significant historical and cultural relevance to attract all these people here tonight. The crowd of guests who had gathered in the reception area included some of Mexico's most rich and famous, along with prominent politicians from Mexico and other influential Latin American countries.
Tommy leans over to Hawthorne and says loudly, "I'll leave you all here to mingle. Have fun tonight and enjoy the spectacle. You have your own seat assignments, so I'll meet you back in the atrium by the front entrance later after the fundraising auction and the artifact unveiling." They aren't auctioning the two artifacts. They'll stay in the museum permanently. However, Anthony and his team have chosen some rare items from the museum to be auctioned off for the fundraiser. I'm sure your student will get a kick out of watching all the rich people here tonight trying to outbid and outspend each other.
I'm sure they will, Hawthorne replied, and then watched Tommy snake his way back through the crowd and toward the atrium of the museum. Professor Hawthorne felt a bit out of place among this crowd and knew that the rest of his group probably felt the same way. He recognized several different celebrities and politicians. He thought to himself, it's quite funny, the celebrities and even the politicians he recognized all look shorter in person than they do on TV. He was glad to be able to just blend in with the crowd and not have anyone recognize him. However, he wondered about Ava since she had been on a lot of news segments over the past year telling their story. As he was thinking this, he looked over to see her standing several tables over with two people he did not recognize.
Ava was laughing and having a good time with the two old reporter acquaintances from a different network she had met earlier in the year while doing an interview with the governor of California. They were reminiscing about the fun and awkward moments that typically come with meeting and then interviewing a prominent politician, and all the weird and special requests from the politician's office and the amount of concessions the reporters usually have to make just to get the interview. Ava looks down at her watch mid-sentence, then says, "Hey, it was so fun running into you both here, and I guess we'll see you on the TV. I've got to go find my group and then find our seats." And with that, she walks over to where Lily and the students were standing and says to Lily, "We should probably make our way to our seats now. I think the event is starting soon." She continues, "Have you seen the professor?"
"He's over there," Lily responds as she points in the direction she saw Professor Hawthorne stop at when they had first arrived in the reception area. Lily and Ava notice that he's a short distance away and leaning on one of the tall standing tables. He's by himself and just standing there casually looking around at the crowd.
Hawthorne notices the large group walking toward him through the crowd. He sees Ava and Lily leading the way and then says to them as they get close to where he's standing, "Man, some of the best form of entertainment is people watching." He then snaps out of his people watching gaze and then says, "It must be time to go find our seats now."
"Yeah, it's time," Ava responds and then continues, "I think the MC will take the stage in about 10 minutes or so to officially kick off this evening's events."
As the group makes their way out of the crowded reception area, Lily looks down at her ticket, then at several of the students' tickets and says, "Looks like we're on the left side and toward the back."
As the group walks back towards the main atrium and then down a long corridor in the opposite direction of the reception area, they enter into another large space that looks similar to the atrium. This large space is located in one of the museum's wings and has the capacity to hold up to 500 people. At least that's what the sign up there on the wall says. "I see where we are sitting," Ava says as she points in the direction Lily had mentioned. "That's cute. There's little welcome bags on each chair, and it looks like the chairs are cushioned."
As Hawthorne finds a seat next to Ava, who is sitting on the end, he nods his head in agreement to Ava's previous comment about cushioned seats and says, "Wow, these are nice and comfortable. Well, if you're a paying celebrity guest, there are certain expectations that come with this event, like having a comfortable place to sit. I like it." He says this as he looks down the row where the students have all gotten seated and are now rummaging through their gift bags that were left on the seats for each guest. The crowd that had been in the reception area just moments ago were now all finding and taking seats as well. Even though the room had a capacity of 500, by the looks of it, there were only about maybe 300, 350 seats set up. The stage itself looked like it took up about a fourth of the area, and there were several dozen more standing cocktail tables in the back of the room for those who might want to get up and stretch their legs during the ceremony. Just at that moment, Hawthorne felt someone touch his shoulder.
Prof. Tommy looks down at Professor Hawthorne and Ava as he stops and stands next to the row. He then says, "Hey guys, glad you found your seats. Pretty cool, right? Some of these guests here tonight have dropped a fortune to be here. so I'm glad we were able to get you all complimentary tickets. He then looks up and over the crowd and says, alright, the show is about to start, and I'm going to go find my seat, which is towards the front. Anthony owes me a favor and sat me up front, closer to the stage. Okay, I'll see you later when it's all over. And with that, Tommy makes his way towards the front, just as the light starts dimming and the music begins.
Ava watches and observes as the entire room goes silent with the dimming of the lights and the music. She looks over at Professor Hawthorne and down the row at all students who are staring at the stage now. She then says under her breath to Hawthorne, "Never thought we'd be sitting here doing this."
Hawthorne replies, well, the surprises just keep coming, don't they? It's fun to be witnessing in person what a lot of times goes on behind the scenes when something like this happens. These artifacts must be pretty significant to demand such a spectacle. Just as he finished saying this, the music jumps in volume and intensity. Lights start flashing and numerous dancers come onto the stage wearing traditional Mayan cultural dress and mask. It appears the celebrations have begun.
After an exciting and loud kickoff dance and light show, which lasted several minutes, Anthony Garcia, the museum's director, made his way onto the stage, which was elevated about 4 feet from the main floor level. This was so that everyone in attendance could see the stage from where they were seated, even the back row seats where Hawthorne and his group were sitting. Anthony grabs the microphone and says, "Welcome to this grand gala event. It's a one-of-a-kind event, and we're so happy you could join us. I hope you enjoyed your pre-gala cocktail party, and you're able to network with each other for a bit. Let's give a big round of applause to our excellent dancers as they exit the stage. Don't worry, you'll see them again later."
While Anthony continues talking, introducing himself and thanking several sponsors, the dancers make their way off the stage and then begin exiting the main hall through a side door, making sure not to interrupt Anthony as he was still speaking. There was still lingering smoke on the stage and around the sides of the stage from the smoke machine that was used during the opening performance. The smoke, which was actually from several dry ice machines, still obscured the sides of the stage. One of the dancers who left the stage paused by the exit door, waiting until all the other dancers had exited through the door first. This dancer, one of the male dancers, wanted to be the last one through the door. Finally, as he walked through the side door, he pulled a small but wide piece of clear tape out from under his left arm and quickly placed it over the inside door latch. He then glanced back out at the audience sitting in the darkened room, whose attention was still directed towards the stage, making sure no one saw him. He then closed the door softly and quietly behind him as to not make any sound. The tape held tight and the door latch and lock did not engage. This side security door was such that one could leave the hall through this door but could not enter back into the hall through this door.
Lily looked down at her phone to check the time, looked back up, and then glanced over at the Professor Hawthorne and Ava and said, "This is going so quickly. I didn't realize how fast auctions like this went. I've never seen this before in real life." It had already been 45 minutes since the dancers left the stage. There were several other notable guests introduced, a few short speeches from politicians, and a live auction of other expensive artifacts and collector's pieces the museum was selling to help raise money. Lily then held up her program, pointed to the cover of it, and asked quietly, "When will they bring out these 2 pieces?" She was pointing to the photos of the jade jar and the golden mask, which were prominently pictured on the cover of the evening's program.
Hawthorne whispers back, "I'm sure it's coming next. They always save the best for last at events like this. Plus, I think they're planning to be done within an hour, and we've already been sitting here for about 45 minutes or so."
Ava glances over and then says, "In that case, I'm going to get up and go stand over to that side so I can get a better angle for my photos." Ava then pulls out her press pass she was given earlier in the evening, gets up, walks towards the side wall, and then moves up closer to the stage. Her press pass allows her to roam around the hall more freely, taking photos and even try to interview guests. As Ava is maneuvering closer and closer to the stage along the sidewall, she sees Anthony Garcia walk up on the stage and then take his place behind the podium. While he is doing this, she notices 4 museum workers carry up 2 heavy vertical stands, assuming that the 2 special artifacts will be brought out and placed on the 2 stands so that the guests can all see them. She gets her camera ready. The music plays in the background again, and the light dims.
Anthony takes his place behind the podium and waits for the music volume to be lowered before he makes the announcement. The music is lowered, which is his cue to make the announcement. He grabs the mic and says, "And without further ado, something you have all been waiting for this evening. Something that has been hidden and buried for a long time. Something that holds great cultural and spiritual significance to all citizens of Mexico. I'd like to present to you."
At that moment, there were 4 loud bangs, perfectly synced to detonate one after another, followed by white blinding flashes of light. Guests were startled and screamed. The bright flashes of light and the loud bangs confused everyone in the room. It created chaos. People were fighting to find the exits and running around dazed and half blind. Not only was there chaos on the floor of the hall with hundreds of people scattering for the exits, the fog machines had also been turned on somehow and were pumping out dry ice smoke at maximum levels.
Moments later, after getting his wits about him, Professor Hawthorne, still seated on those comfortable cushy chairs in the back row, and in some shock from the loud noise and flashes of light, looks down the row toward where Lily and all his students are sitting. To his surprise, not one of them had panicked or had gotten up out of their seat. All Hawthorne saw was their scared faces staring right back at him. Without thinking, he yells out, "Lay down on the floor and don't move." Hawthorne knew that if the students panicked and tried to run out of the hall, along with the rest of the panicking guests, they may get trampled on, at worst, or separated from each other, at the very least. His only thought was to keep the group together, if at all possible.
And that ends part 3. Stay tuned for next week as we bring you part 4 of Legends of the Yucatán.
As we end this episode, I want to again thank our student athletes from Segment 1 for joining us. And keep listening as our adventure story will continue as our heroes are wading deeper and deeper into the plot with a lot more tension to come. Stay tuned for our next episode as we discuss the topic of different shapes or styles of employees. Are you an I-shaped, T-shaped, V-shaped, or M-shaped employee? And as always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives, sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we are signing off until next time. We are Students Incorporated, because your voice matters.